All right, welcome back to ABA Exam Review and the continuation of our BCBA Practice Exam series. This is exam number 7, and we're going through the next set of questions together. If you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. Please like and subscribe. Check out behavioranalyststudy.com for all of our study materials, including our combo pack and practice exams. As always, when you pass, please let us know so we can include you in the Sunday shout-out. Work hard, study hard. Let's get going. After working with the client as a technician for 2 years, you finally earn your board certification. You're taken off that case and given other cases of your own. You no longer work with the client, so you decide to ask the client's mom out on a date since you always had a good relationship. The mom agrees and you go out, which leads to a romantic relationship. Have you done anything wrong? Clearly, we have an ethical question. And so, with ethical questions, we need to be very black and white as far as the ethics code goes. We want to abide by the letter of the law, just like the ethics code writes it out. So in the case of relationships, in the ethics code, there are very clear rules around relationships. In this case, you were a technician and you worked with the client for 2 years. Now, as far as relationships goes with clients, the length of time doesn't matter. If you worked with that client for a day, the same length of time applies between when you stop working with them and when you can engage in a relationship. So after you're on your board certification, you're taken off that case and you no longer work with the client. So you ask that mom out on a date. She says yes. Now, if you had never worked with this client before, this is no big deal. You're an adult. She's an adult. It happens. However, you did work with the client. And even though time doesn't matter, you worked with them for 2 years. That's a long time. You developed a relationship with this stakeholder, and now you ask them out. Have you done anything wrong? A, no, you're no longer working on the case. While true, remember, there is a time frame you have to abide by. B, no, the mom is an adult and consent to the date. The mom can consent, and she's done nothing wrong because the only people who abide by our ethical code are people certified as analysts and technicians under the board. So the mom's done nothing wrong. However, you still need to wait a certain period of time. C, yes, you're never allowed to date clients or stakeholders. It's not never, it's only after a certain period of time, which is D, yes, you must wait 2 years after service ends to have a romantic relationship with a client or stakeholder. The answer we're looking for is D. Now, you might say, well, why 2 years? Well, think about if you're working at this company, you're dating the mom, and you have to go back and help out with that case. That creates a real problem for everyone involved. So ethically, to be the most ethical analyst you can be, you have to wait 2 years after service stops to have a romantic relationship with the client or stakeholder. After several attempts of trial and error, a high schooler figures out exactly how far he is able to open his front door at night without triggering the alarm. The high schooler can now come and go as he pleases. What type of analysis does this most resemble? This is a good question and a good representation of what you might see on the exam, where we take our behavior analytic ideas and concepts and we apply them in these real life situations. So when you look at comparative, component, parametric, we're typically thinking about interventions and treatment plans. So for example, a component analysis, you might take your treatment plan and analyze each component of that plan. Here, though, we're talking about a high schooler who through trial and error is opening his front door at night without triggering the alarm, and he can only open it a certain amount. Now, think about what type of analysis we use to decide an amount of something. And that's what this question is going for. So it's kind of a tricky question. What about a comparative analysis? Well, comparative analysis, you are comparing 2 or more things. So if we put this in treatment plan terms, you're comparing 2 different interventions, 2 different treatments, 2 things that aren't the same part of the same package. In this case, he's only looking at how far he can open the door. He's not comparing the door to something else. He's not comparing opening the door to opening the window, for example. Component analysis is when you're looking at the treatment plan itself and looking at pieces of the treatment plan. Well, he's not looking at different pieces of an entire plan. He's just looking at the door part of his plan. So what he's doing is a parametric analysis where he's looking at what is the dosage? What's the amount that I can open this door without triggering the alarm? And of course, it's not a functional analysis because he's not looking for why his behavior is occurring. And The reason this is tricky is because it's not a traditional way to think about our parametric analysis. But what it's testing is, what is he doing? He's looking for the amount or the dosage of this single thing, which is opening the door. Therefore, it most resembles a parametric analysis. Jing, a behavior analyst, is looking for new and innovative ways to train her staff. She reads a couple of books and listens to a podcast on the benefits of cognitive behavior therapy when used to train staff. Jing decides to design her entire training around this new form of teaching. Is this acceptable? All right, we have another ethical/personnel management question. If you've been following me, you know what I say about personnel management, which gives people trouble. You manage personnel the same way you would manage a client, meaning you've got to do everything behavior analytically, you're setting goals, you're monitoring your training. Jing, however, is looking for these new ways. So she's going to cognitive behavioral therapy. And not only that, she designs her entire training around this new form of teaching. Well, why is that a problem? Well, because when you're training and when you're managing staff, it has to be behavior analytic in nature. That's what the task list says. That's what the code says. Jing has not adhered to those codes. So is this acceptable? A, yes, Jing has the right to train her staff however she wants to an extent. If she's certified and trained in cognitive behavioral therapy and she incorporates it into the plan, that's not so bad. But to design her entire training around something that isn't behavior analytic in nature, that's the issue. B, yes, cognitive behavioral therapy is behavior analytic in nature. It is not as a different form of science, a different form of therapy. C, no, Jing's training should be behavior analytic in nature. Yeah, it's as simple as that. You've got to keep a behavior analytic. When you're managing personnel, when you're training personnel, it must be behavior analytic. We do have enough information to answer this question. Our answer here is no, Jing's training should be behavior analytic in nature. Mr. LeBlanc introduces to his class a new way to earn rewards. There are 3 different types of reinforcers that are available, with each type increasing in value. For the most valuable reinforcer, the students must earn 200 points, while the least valuable reinforcers cost only 150 points. What does this most resemble? Pretty simple question, I would say. Remember, not every question is that hard. So when you get an easy question, you trust your prep, you answer it, you move on. This one's, I think, pretty obvious, right? Because what is Mr. LeBlanc doing? Well, he's got this reward system, 3 different types of reinforcers, each increasing in value, 200 points, 150 points. Immediately, if you're fluent, you should think level system. It's a dead giveaway, right? We have different types. They're increasing in value. This is essentially saying each type, each level increases in value, right? The most valuable is 200 points, least valuable 150 points. So a way to do the level system is the less points you have, the less valuable the reinforcers, and you build up. But oftentimes the expectations are higher for more points or better behaviors, so on and so forth. So what does this most resemble? A, non-contingent reinforcement. Well, it's obviously contingent because they have to exchange points. So the reinforcers are contingent on them earning and exchanging points. Prompt fading. I don't see anywhere in here where we talk about prompts. Level system, of course. I think it's pretty straightforward. Again, don't think easy questions are just trying to trick you. Sometimes they're just straightforward. You answer it, we move on. And then D, bootleg reinforcement. Bootleg reinforcement is when you obtain reinforcement without actually engaging in the response. Here, you have to earn the points and you have to exchange the points. They're not getting this through bootleg means. They're actually earning it as part of this level system. So Mr. LeBlanc is using what? What does it most resemble? We'll see a level system. Every 3rd session, Tony takes data at the same time as his technician. Tony then compares his data to his technician's data and provides adjustments or additional training if discrepancies are found. What Tony is doing will help most with what aspect of data? Data questions can give people trouble because when we think of data, we think of 3 primary factors that make good data, right? We want accurate, valid, and reliable data. Accurate data says we're measuring exactly what occurred. Valid data says we're measuring the right thing, and reliability says we can do it over and over again. Well, there's a 4th aspect to data, which is believability. And with believability, we can take data that may be accurate, valid, and reliable and start to believe it more. Because think about if you have a technician who comes to you and they say, well, here's good data. I've been taking this data. Even if that technician's amazing, just adhering to philosophical doubt, you might question it a little bit. So, what are you going to do? Well, you're going to go in there and try to measure yourself and compare the best way to start to believe that data. So, that's what Tony is doing. He's taking data at the same time as his technician, then comparing. Essentially, they're taking inter observer agreement. And so, if they're collecting inter observer agreement data, what aspect of data are they working on? Well, they're not necessarily working on accuracy, validity, and reliability, even though it's going to help. Because what is going to help the most here in terms of data is believability. Because think about if Tony goes in there and his technician has been taking inaccurate data this whole time, and Tony also takes inaccurate data. Well, that's not going to help with the accuracy, but it is going to be believable because now we have two people doing it. You've got to consider what aspect are we really working on here? What if they're measuring the wrong behavior and they both measure the wrong behavior? It doesn't make it valid, but at least it's more believable. So IOA, while not testing necessarily for these accuracy, valid, reliability, even though in an ideal world you are taking accurate, valid, and reliable data, it is going to make that data more believable despite it being good or bad data. So Tony is doing what with what aspect of the data is Tony working with? Well, really, he's working with the believability of this data. In behavior analysis, what is considered the act of delaying gratification by engaging in responses that produce a larger reward on a delayed schedule or in a certain way to change future behavior? This is kind of a learning question, a teaching question, and it's kind of a definition question, right? And what the point is to hammer in the idea when we're talking about self-control, self-management, and all these ideas behind self-management and self-control. Because when we talk about self-management and self-control, we're essentially talking about the same thing. When we talk about self-evaluation, self-instruction, self-monitoring, those are interventions and plans and ideas and techniques for self-control and self-motivation. And self-management, I should say. And so when we are delaying gratification by engaging in responses that produce larger rewards on a delayed schedule, what we're doing is engaging in self-control. And this is what is described in the Cooper book as self-control or self-management. And so more of a definition teaching question than anything, but we just want to remember we have our idea of self-management and self-control, and then we have our techniques, evaluation, instruction, monitoring, so on and so forth. All right, thank you for watching. Be sure to subscribe to get all of our videos. We release BCBA videos every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Check out behavioranalyststudy.com for all of our study materials, including our combo pack. When you pass, let us know so we can include you in the Sunday shout out. Work hard, study hard. See you soon.